Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live coaching. We had a few hiccups getting started today. So, Facebook changed their settings, and so I'm no longer able to stream directly into the Facebook group. So, I'm still streaming straight onto YouTube. That works. That will probably always work. So, if you want to watch the live streams, I recommend watching them on YouTube. So follow and subscribe on YouTube. I know a lot of people are already watching them on YouTube, but I know a lot of people like to watch them on Facebook as well. But Facebook is making that more difficult for us. So I recommend watching them on YouTube. I seem to have found a workaround. Um, this is why we're starting a little bit late, is the I went to set up my stream like normal, and then it just didn't work into the Facebook group. So they changed the settings. And so I found a workaround by um, streaming through Facebook on my page, and then putting that into the our Facebook group. But that also means that I can't see the comments so well from Facebook. So again, this is a change that Facebook made, which makes it a lot harder for us to stream directly into the group, but it doesn't change the content of what we're doing. It just means that it's a lot better for you if you're watching it on YouTube. So I recommend watching it on YouTube. All right, we got a full chat, stack chat. Great to see you guys showing up. Glad people are not deterred, even if Facebook's making it more difficult for us. We got Rasmus in Hamburg. Tomas. Hello, Tomas. Jörg, 3 sessions this week in Sweden. Awesome. Christophe in Santa Cruz. Christophe was here on Maui last weekend for the Learn to Loop weekend, and he learned to loop. Herman from Rostock. Mark in Sweden. No sailing this week. And Matt just had a surprise evening session. Awesome. Michelle de Muro. Hello. Um, or is this David Mosca? Hello, hello. And we got Dennis as well. No sailing today. And Suna from Denmark, only one flat water session. Suna's on it though. Suna's often getting after it. All right. And this is a session I had this week. And what's interesting is it felt terrible. This is one of my more frustrating sessions that I've had this year. But when I watched the video, it doesn't look that bad. But it didn't feel good. It felt like nothing was working. And it's funny because when I look at the video of sessions that feel amazing, and I've posted some of those as well on here, they don't look that amazing. So there's not actually that much variation, but there's huge variation in how it feels. So I felt like on this session, nothing was working. And there's a few things that I see that are going a little bit differently. And I was experimenting with some other boards. There's a few things that I'm doing in my technique that I'm not stoked on. That normally I'm doing a better job of. Like for example, my legs in this session were get that low before you go, knees bent before you're going into these turns. I'll go back through my session a little bit before we go into the Facebook group. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. We got Eric and Ragnar in the chat. Ragnar is on YouTube. We've got George in Haiku sailing 6 days in a row. Awesome. Max, no sailing this week, but hopefully the wind will return. Yeah, I hope so as well. I hope so as well. We've got a little bit of admin stuff to go over quickly, and then I want to go through some of my section, and we'll go through the Facebook group. So I want to thank you to all the current supporters. We've got Christophe, Dennis, Eric, Evgeny, Greg, Jeff, George, Jörg, Matt, Ragnar, Roland, Samuli, Tomas, and Mark. And if you want to support the community and the live stream, there's a link in this description somewhere in the description of this. And yep, you can just go. There's a few different plans. We do, if you're in, I think it's gold tier and higher, we do a monthly Zoom call and there's a private WhatsApp group. We had our Zoom call on, was it Friday this week? It was really fun. It was great to get everyone together. We had a nice Zoom call talking about the sailing that we've had and that we're planning to do. And yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. So if that sounds interesting to you and you want to support the Facebook community and the live coaching, consider joining one of the supporter levels. Also, we are going to Morocco. The clinic in Morocco, the Windsurfing Masterclass in Morocco is happening. So if you're interested in that, it's happening in June. You can apply. Also, I put a link here, so it should be in the description of this video. All right, so that's enough admin stuff. I want to go over a bit from this session, and then we're going to get into the Facebook group. You guys can interrupt me, ask me questions anytime about your own windsurfing, about my windsurfing, about anything windsurfing related or not, I guess, anything in general. We've got Axel here trying to watch videos and mounting new foot straps. He's got Dakine Primos. Primos are my favorite foot straps. I love the Dakine Primos. And we've got Andre, Stormy Stories. Cool. So this was a session that I had during the week. And like I said, it just didn't feel that good. I felt like I was not performing well. I felt like I was sliding out a lot. And while I was on the water, my legs were straighter than I like them to be. I don't know why. This one, I just didn't want to hit this poor guy in the water. And let's see, so I'm starting a bit too straight for my liking here on the legs. And that causes a few issues with the bottom turn, and then also pushing on the cutbacks. And my fins were really slidey this day. I don't know if it was the conditions or something that I was doing different or some way that I'd set up my gear, but generally I don't like to do turns where my fins are coming out as much. I like to keep the rail more engaged. And so like here I'm getting a little bit more knee bend. And something that I want to point out that's going to come up in the Facebook group later, Geoff posted a post about his bottom turns, and there are a lot of components to the bottom turn: getting the knee bend, the hip bend, but also just getting bent over with your body so you're not upright. And this is a good example of that. You can see that my body is not vertical; it's getting really bent over, and that allows that board to turn and do that U-shaped bottom turn, which is what we want to do. I don't know if there's much else in here. We look at, here's another example of that slide where I'm sliding a lot more than I want to, or I was sliding a lot more than I like to in that session. Also on the little cutbacks, we've got Max saying that Robbie Nash turned 61 this week. Woohoo! Happy birthday to Robbie Nash. And Andre says that he is in La Ventana, Baja, 4 days in a row, light wind. Great to teach his girlfriend pumping, planning straps, and to practice tacks, heli tacks, clue first, water starts, uphauling on the waveboard. Awesome, awesome, awesome. That sounds great. I want to go through just a couple more things with this footage, and then we're going to open up the Facebook group. And so you can see, like, I'm just sliding a lot with my tail, and it doesn't look that bad in the video, but I don't like how it feels. I prefer to not stay on the top of the wave. So, yeah, so the Rasmus is asking about my shorter new board. So that's what I'm on at the beginning of this session. So this darker red colored board is the shorter one. And, you know, it didn't feel as comfortable as the long one, but there are turns in here that I like. So I'm going to explore it. I'm going to explore it more. Let's see if I can find one of these turns that I like to give you an example of what I'm looking for. So I like how that bottom turn and cutback set up. It's a nice tight little shape. This is user error, mistimed it. And let's see what I do here. So again, my legs are a little bit straighter than I would like. More bend here though than in the other one, which is good. I think I fall straight on my face here. So I expected the board to release more, and it didn't. So the board kind of stuck. I don't know. We'll see. I need more sessions on it. I like that, like the way that this. So here I crashed this 360. I got stalled a little bit before I go into it, and then this turn. So this is what I mean when I said that I don't like the turns where the tail slides. So like this, where I hit the lip and the energy transfers into my board, and I pick up speed and do a tight turn in that pocket is what I like the feeling of the best. See where I come out of it with speed rather than sliding like I did on some of those other examples. And then otherwise, this is an older board that I haven't ridden in a while, and it actually felt good. So it was interesting to try. It was also more slidey than I was used to, um, but it felt good. I like cutbacks like this as well. These little tweaked air cutbacks. And then here I went for a talk, and I thought, I've been doing a lot of talkers lately, and I thought this would all work fine, but it didn't. All right, let's load up the Facebook group. Let's make sure we got that loaded up. And we will get into the posts that have been posted. All right. Let's get the Facebook group loaded up. All right. There we go. So I'm going to refresh this page. And I'm going to sort by new posts. All right. So post from Ragnar. And so his question is how to ride a location where the wave rolls towards you, plus light wind, 5 meter in onshore. Not particularly proud of this ride, but wondering how to ride it. So if you get conditions like this, let us know in the chat. So are you riding sort of rolly waves in light onshore winds? If you are, say so in the chat and tell us what tips and techniques you use to help in these conditions. So one thing, when you're catching waves at this angle, you've got to look way upwind where you're going to get the power from the wave. And so probably what I would do in this example, though this one ends up being quite flowy, but probably what I would do is I would stay with the wave longer and try to get to the power source more. So remember, what we're doing when we're riding waves is going from power source to power source. And we can see that there's a bit more of a power source here. So probably what I would do, and less downwind, is I travel a little bit higher up the wave to make it so that we're going more from power source to power source. Again, this wave doesn't have a lot of power, but it would help that you would end up somewhere more with a bit of power. But I like the flow. What I really like with this, and I think is a great technique that all of us can do in these kind of conditions, is going front side and backside when it's onshore like this. So you coming out of that cutback and going pretty soon right into this backside turn and getting that high five. And so Ragnar, this is something you say you're not proud of this wave ride, but I'm really proud of this moment because getting the high fives in the backsides was something that we've been working on for years. Ragnar, when you've been on some of our masterclass groups in Denmark, we were working on getting those angles. And what I love to see where you're doing a quick angle change to ensure that high five. So you're coming up to that whitewater, and then we can see this moment right there where the board just shifts a little bit. so that gets that high five angle, and you're able to hit that off the lip and come off the wave. You're able to get a lot of speed out of the we like to see. Here's another ride. No, this is the same ride. All the same ride? No, this is a different one. So again, if you ride conditions like this often, what are your tips and tricks and techniques for making it work? I like going for the backside riding, getting the backside high fives. This one we got caught up a little bit, which is going to happen. It's going to happen sometimes in these conditions. So don't be too hard on yourself. I think going for the high fives and really trying to stay with the power sources is going to be what you want to focus on. That looks difficult. There's not a lot of power in that wave there. All right, this is the last one. All right, here you've got a bit more wind. Let's see if that translates to a better wave ride experience. So I really did like that first wave ride. There you go. Get back into backside high five. So Ragnar, I think starting oh, this is the same one. I like that one a lot. Starting a little bit higher on the wave might be helpful. All right, so I hope that is helpful. And then if anyone else is writing those conditions, please comment as well. All right, so next up, we've got port tack forward loops from Dennis. So Dennis, actually, I was thinking about you last weekend as I was doing our forward loop masterclass on Maui, and I've got some new exercises since the last time you and I met together to help with getting a more horizontal rotation. And Christophe, if you're still in the chat, maybe you can say how effective it was for you. I felt like it was very effective. So Christophe was in our group, and we were working on some series of exercises, and they're simple. They're simple but not easy. And we really got Christophe to the horizontal forwards. And what I would do, Dennis, is start with these exercises. I'm not ready to talk about them on the stream. What I will do, because I don't want them to be misinterpreted, but I'm gonna do an online course. Then, of course, if we meet somewhere, I can show you them in person. But I'll get the online course set up so that we can, uh, no matter where anyone is in the world, you can have access to it. These are looking pretty good though, even though you don't land this one. I really like I really like the form here. The main thing we want to do is get just a little bit more horizontal so that the mast doesn't hit, which you say in your comment, and we can see it happening here, right? Where you're just tipping the mast into the water, and then that screws up your rotation. But otherwise, this one's really beautiful. I like a lot about this. All right, let's watch number 3. So Christoph says, one of the most effective parts of the Learn to Loop weekend was following me on the water, watching me do the exercises. Um, yeah, Dennis, I like your technique. I like where this is going. We just have to work on getting more horizontal. And to do that, you want to really think about pushing that nose downwind at the beginning of the rotation. And you can think about doing that yourself by getting that mass into the wind and pushing the nose downwind. Or once I get these exercises in a format that I can clearly communicate online, check those out. And the best thing with these exercises is you can do them at home. You can do them at home. But I think getting that nose pointed downwind. But otherwise, I think your rotation looks really nice. I think you're doing a great job. There's a lot of progress from when you were doing these loops in Denmark a few years ago. They look really good. So I think the main thing that you want to work on is just getting more horizontal so that you don't have issues with the sail tip touching. But otherwise, they're looking pretty solid. All right, next up, we got a question from Mark. So he's been learning the fast tacks by going through my online course, and he's able to tack his 86 in flat water. But he's having trouble transferring it back into the waves, and the main problem is the mix of tactical and psychological factors. His question is whether anyone has tips about how to deal with the pressure of having swell around you. Yeah, this is a common issue where you can do the tacks in flat water, but then once you start getting in the waves, it's more daunting and more challenging, and that's normal. And there's two issues. Like, one is the psychological, and the other is that the ocean is the topology is more chaotic, and you're having to deal with that. So for the psychology, I think it can be helpful to isolate your tacks to specific areas. So somewhere on the inside where it's easy to fall and it doesn't matter, you can stay in the water for a minute, getting yourself rearranged again, or on the outside in an area where, again, it's easy to fall. So you're not trying to tack directly onto the swell that you want to ride. Instead, you're going out to sort of a safe zone, if there is a safe zone, and you're doing your tack there. And so that can help remove some of the psychological pressure. One of the things that I say about learning any move, and this is true of tacks, it's also true of Vulcans and forward loops, is that until you get to 50% consistency, you want to make sure that you're doing the move in the area where you're comfortable. So for jibes and tacks, I feel like this is the most relevant area where this comes up. There's a place where you like to jibe, a place where you like to tack. And at your home spot, when you do your session, you jibe and tack in the same spots every time. And up until 50% consistency, you want to stay in those spots. Now, once you get about 50%, you got to push yourself out of that comfort zone. Tack 10 meters sooner, jibe 10 meters sooner, jibe 10 meters later, go a little bit upwind, a little bit downwind, go closer to the beach or farther away from the beach on the inside. And by breaking up that comfort zone, that's how you help get to the last 50% of your consistency. Because at the end of the day, it's all about reps and reps that challenge you. If you're not being challenged in the reps, you're not learning. So as you're getting more consistent, you've got to increase the difficulty of the reps or the variety of the reps to help you get that last percentage. And then just in terms of a tactical overview, trying to make sure that you're doing the tacks where the topology makes it easy. So when you're coming in, if you're on a little bit of whitewater, you can use that little bit of whitewater to help your board keep speed, which makes it easier to balance. And so if you stay on a little bit of whitewater as you're coming in and you do your tack on it, it's going to be a little bit easier. As you're going out, I like to do the tacks, initiate the tack as I'm going up a swell or chop, and then do the pirouette at the top of the swell where there's a moment of weightlessness as I'm starting to fall down the other side. And then as I'm falling down the other side of the swell, that's when I push on the sail and get balanced on the new side. A third point that I want to mention is this is a video I'm going to add to the tack course. Actually, if you're in the tack course online, I will release. I've got a couple videos that I'm going to add that are additional points that I've seen come up. So one of the biggest mistakes that people are making is going too fast coming out of the tack. And we have slow is smooth and smooth is fast as one of our main key secrets of the tack. And I'm going to add something to that, and it's count to 5 to stay alive. Count to 5 to stay alive. And what I mean by that is if you're having problems just at the end of the tack, where you're falling at the end of the tack, count to 5 before you try to get going again. Because what I see happening is you get to the other side and you sheet in trying to go again, but the gear isn't ready to go again. And so you want to take 5 seconds to get balanced, get the board pointing out, And you can do that by pushing down on the front foot to push the nose downwind, hanging from the boom, sort of gently pushing down on the mast to get the board heading downwind again. Whatever you need to do to get balanced, just getting balanced on the board, pushing out against the sail to get some backwind pressure, but count to 5 to stay alive. And so rather than rushing out of the end of the tack, take 5 seconds to get balanced before you start trying to go again. And that'll make a big difference, because one of the most common mistakes, once you've got everything else figured out, is trying to get out of the tack too quickly. There's actually so much time in the tack at the end of the tack. So get balance and then get going. So those are some things you can do. We've got a few comments from the chat. So Andre saying is great advice as well, because the bigger board is making it easier. That can reduce some of the psychological factors as well once you're training. So you work on the small board in flat water, but then take the bigger board into the waves, and then that will help you get comfortable with the waves. That's great. So Tomasz is saying outside in Habo should be good tacking practice, huh? Okay. George is saying that he's not comfortable tacking outside on Maui. It was very bumpy and gusting to 40. Yeah, it was tricky this week on Maui. All right, next up, we've got Geoff, and he is working on his bottom turns, and we see some good body position. We've got the knee bend, the hip bend, but the main thing, see knee bend, hip bend, but the main thing we want to see more of, Geoff, is getting this body more horizontal. So less vertical on the body, more horizontal with the body, so that you can transfer all of this power and weight into board pressure. So this board, instead of being relatively flat, is on its edge. So there are moments here where you're getting more of that pressure. Okay, so that's easy to say. How do we actually do it? And one of the things that, Geoff, I would have you do is going to sound really weird, but it's to sheet out and push the sail away from you in your bottom turn. And that's going to do two things. One, it's going to give you the space to lean over with your body. And two, it's going to make it so that you're not relying on the power of the sail to pull you downwind. Because when you're in this position and you're sheeting in on the sail, which is a good position for a bottom turn, it's pulling you downwind. So it's pulling you into that bottom turn. In down the line conditions, this is exactly what we want to do. But we want to do it with the body being more horizontal. We want to get that body leaned over. So as a drill, what I would do is push the sail away. So you've got your arms straight, the back arm straight, and you're leaning with your body and using just your body to try to get the board to turn rather than using the power of the sail. And then once we get comfortable getting the body leaned over, then we can bring back the sail into the equation, and you can get this nice posture with the arms. The other thing that I noticed, Geoff, is your hand is pretty far forward. So I think that you want to move your front hand back to the harness lines. Move your front hand back to the harness lines. It looks like the front hand is very far forward on the boom. And I think you'll be a lot more comfortable and able to do much more leaning, powerful bottom turns if that front hand is farther back, because it looks like it's too far up on the bend of the boom. So if you bring that front hand back to the harness lines before you start, and you don't have to go over sheeting too much. I mean, the sheeting in hard is definitely a good thing, but the problem with it as an exercise is that by pulling the sail in, right, that direction, that force vector, it's pushing you more upright, or it's making you more upright. And we want your body to be more horizontal. So pushing the sail away from you will help get you in the right position. And then from there, then we can work on sheeting in the sail. But we don't want to just rely on sheeting in the sail to get us downwind. We want to use our body for that. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. So those are two things that I would work on. One is pushing the sail away from you so that you can just lean with your body to get the board on the rail. And then two is moving that front hand back to the harness lines. All right. What are the questions? We got a couple questions from Evgeny. What is the correct technique to pump into a wave in light wind? Is there a difference for onshore and offshore conditions? Um, I don't know if there's much huge difference in onshore or offshore conditions, but you want to make sure that your board is pointing in the direction where the energy of the swell is going. And that will help you pick up the energy of the swell better into the board when you're trying to catch a wave. So what that means is when it's offshore, you're going to be trying to travel a little bit upwind because that's the direction of where the wave is traveling. And when it's onshore, you're going to be traveling more downwind, which will feel pretty unnatural. So it feels more unnatural to pump into a wave in onshore conditions because you've got to be in this weird downwind position. But again, getting that board so it's pointing in the same direction of the power of the swell will help it pick up more of that energy, right? The wave, the energy is just going to pass under the board. It's not going to transfer into the board. For offshore conditions, another thing to be relevant to be aware of is that even though you are trying to go a little bit more upwind, maybe you're going to be going a lot downwind and you're going to be losing a lot of ground. And so you want to catch the wave quite a bit more upwind from where you're going to plan to ride it because you're going to burn, if it's light, you're going to burn a lot of ground trying to just get on the wave. Can you train this in flat water? Yes, pumping is pumping. I mean, there's a difference when you're on a wave of really trying to feel that connection of the swell with the board. And when you have the wave, a wave is just not just a wave, right? There are little wavelets and chops in the face of the wave, especially out to sea where you're catching the waves. And you want to use those wavelets and chops to help give your board some power. So you want to always be trying to go downhill. And so I'm actually kind of moving my board around the surface of the wave so that I'm going downhill. So down a little wavelet or down a chop. So sometimes I'm going across the wave because there's a little cross wave, a little wavelet, and trying to pick up that energy. So really being aware of the topology of the surface of the wave while you're pumping onto it and trying to always be going downwind is going to be really helpful. That you can't train as well in flat water, though you can try getting the energy from the chops in the water, but you can also just train the pumping. And I think one of the big things with pumping onto waves is you want to do really big pumps. It's not just about that backhand, it's about full body pumps where you're pushing that sail forward, you're pulling with both hands, you're pumping on the fins, pushing on your feet, and you're doing full body pumps. You're pumping the board and the sail at the same time. You can definitely train those in flat water and try to go from not planing to planing. All right, next up, question from Evgeny. If you have a single board in your quiver, would you change fins or fins positioning going between 10 knot to 12 knots and 20 knots wave running sessions? Probably not, unless there was a lot of current in one of those situations, and then maybe I go a little bit bigger fin. But otherwise, I think I would keep the same fin for these conditions and the same setup. We got a question from Rasmus in the chat about fin clusters. What is the 2 to 3 finger distance between front and back fin in centimeters? I don't have a ruler with me, but I guess you're looking at between, I would say, 2 to 4 centimeters distance between your fin cluster. It's kind of what you want to aim for. All right, next up, Martin is all packed up and he's heading to Czech Republic. Awesome. All right, next, Alex posted this video of Jagger. Let that ad go through. Cool. We've got some new members in the group. Welcome, new members. All right, let's watch this video. Beautiful drone flying from Paul. Look at this. Beautiful. I love this footage. This is amazing footage. Beautiful footage. Awesome. Filming from Paul. Makes me wanna go to Australia. Beautiful. Going for the corner pocket, what we like to find, helps us identify places to hit the lip on the wave, be in the power source. Going at Taka, the same one. See, all of these things that we talk about coming into practice, you can see in this bottom turn how much lean Jagger's getting, how his hips are turning into the turn, and then getting this high five. Like, look at this beautiful high five. You can see how he's getting the angle of the board perfectly aligned with the whitewater. Here he's going for another Taka, which is a little bit of a different technique. Oh, maybe he's just doing a slidey cut back. Or maybe he's, yeah, beautiful. Little tweak there. Yeah, beautiful. 1 foot back loop. Nice. I can see on this one really how wet back loop landings are. This is typical for landing back loops. How downwind he is, how wet he is. Let's watch this bottom turn. So you can see, look, get low before you go. Getting low, pushing the sail away from him. Look, he's got both arms straight. Look how low he is in the knees. Like, this is such a good example of all the things we talk about. Super low in the knees, get low before you go, pushing the sail away from him. He's got both arms straight, and then getting that lean, pushing, 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 leaning, leaning, leaning. You can see here he's in the middle of the turn. He's really aggressively turning those hips into the turn. Allows for this nice U-shaped bottom turn. Comes up into a power source, gets the butt low. It's on the rail. A little bit more fin release than I like. I don't really like the fin release turns where you get stuck at the top of the wave, but nice. A little shock on the wave, fast tack, another corner pocket. Yeah, like look at this example. You can see how much his knees are turned into the turn, the hips are turned into the turn. I mean, it's amazing how radical this is actually, his body position, and then how much horizontal lean he's got with his body, right? And that's really what we want to aim for. Get those nice U-shaped bottom turns. Really getting the corner pocket timing. See, these corner pocket sections are so good for finding getting lined up with the wave. Ragnar's asking where this is in Australia. I believe this is Coronation in Western Australia, Coronation Beach. Beautiful arch back backy. Nice. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right. Next up, another little bit of admin. So I'm looking for someone to help me with some admin and sales work for the in-person master classes. We've got a few people already reply, and I'm in contact with a few people. But if this sounds like something you'd really be interested in, let me know. So it's part-time work. You need to be a native English speaker, and yeah, if you're interested, comment here, and I'll reach out to you. All right. Jeff is asking for tips for CD Kauki. We are going to CD Kauki. If you want to apply here. This is the form. You can also go to windsurfingmasterclass.com, and in the navigation there, you can find all of the in-person masterclasses that are happening this week. I'm really excited to be going back to Morocco. It's going to be fun. All right, next up, we've got this clip from Laird. Let's put the sound on. Yeah, I love this comment from Laird because if you want to get better, if you want to learn new things, you have to be a beginner. You have to be a beginner again. And if you are worried about looking silly or looking like a beginner or looking like you don't know how to do something and you're worried about other people's reaction, it's going to really hold you back. And so being okay with being laughed at or looking silly is what leads you to the fastest progress and getting better more quickly. All right. Just like that, we're caught up. Oh, Matt says there's no sound. So you guys, that means you guys have to go into the Facebook group and check it out yourself. Um, Annoying that there's no sound. So you've got to go into the Facebook group, find the post. You can comment on it, like it, watch it. It's a great post, great advice from Laird. Basically, what he says is that if you are he sees a lot of people who are held back in their surfing because they're worried about being laughed at or worried about looking like a beginner. And so they're not trying new things. And that actually, if you are not afraid of looking like a beginner and you go through that process and then you're learning new things, that's when you get to be really good. All right, guys, I am going to sign off. Thanks for joining me. I will see you next week, Sunday. I'm going to be in New York next week, Sunday. So I don't know where I will be streaming from, but I will find somewhere to stream and we'll see each other. And what else do I have to say? There's a bunch of admin stuff in the comment associated with this video. So if you want to support the channel or the community, you can do so. If you want to join one of our in-person weeks, you can also do so. And all of those things, links are up in the description. All right, guys, have a great week. I hope it's windy, and I will see you next week, Sunday. Don't forget to post in the Facebook group. All right, everyone. Goodbye.